Hey, everybody, and welcome. Sean here with NSN Management, and today we're going to talk about email security. As we've focused this week really on the topic of security, everything from just kind of an intro of importance of security, and one of our big things is the concept of simple security. And keeping it where you're actually going to use security. So yesterday, I think we talked about firewalls and what we call edge security. And today I want to talk about email security. Um, Email fraud costs companies somewhere around 2 billion every year is one of the numbers I've seen thrown around. And it is one of the most common ways that organizations get compromised. We even have an acronym for it, BEC, Business and Email Compromise, which, again, we have to have acronyms for everything here in IT world. But one of the problems with these business email compromises is they're fairly difficult to detect. And one of the primary reasons for that is that they really depend upon social engineering, the concept of where humans, for the most part, when we get stuff, we're relatively trusting. We will click on something without questioning it. And it's one of the very common ways that hackers or bad actors get access to our IT resources and our data and our financial information. So it's again, a very, very common and easy way to get attacked. One of the other big threats that we see is what they call supplier invoicing fraud, where an organization will receive an email that contains an invoice with the payment link in it, and they'll open it up, and accounting will look at that and assume it's a valid email because it has all the right information. It's very close to maybe what they've gotten before, and they'll pay that invoice. And that invoice then obviously was fraudulent. It's too late. That money's already been handled because they usually do it via ACH or something along those lines. Bad actors pull the money out, and money's gone, and the fraud has happened. And they get the information that they needed, whether it was credit card information, your bank account information. And so that's one of the common ways that happens. Another common thing that will happen is what we call phishing attacks, phishing. And what that typically happens is you receive an email that looks like, let's say it's Microsoft 365, and it looks a lot like it. And it says, hey, your password has expired and needs to be reset. And so you click it, and that link, because they figured out how to spell these days. They used to not know how to do that, or their grammar was really poor. But now they figured out how to make it look just like an email from Microsoft. And it comes in, and you click the link, and you go to a website that looks just like Microsoft's website and the password reset screen. And you put in your current password, and you put in a new one. And you hit submit, and everything's great. And you just go on about your day, and you don't really realize that your password wasn't changed. What they did, the bad actors, was that they collected your current password. And so then what will happen is the bad actor will use Outlook Web Access. They'll log into your email account, and they'll set up a forwarding rule where first they'll read through your email and kind of figure out what kind of things you do. And let's say you're the accounting department, or you're a mortgage company, or financial transactions. They'll read these emails and try to figure out, okay, this is the kind of things we're looking for. And what they'll do is they'll set up a forwarding rule that then forwards all of your email to another address. And in that other address, they'll go through and they'll start parsing your email, figuring out what they need to do. And then they have access to your email. So they'll log back in, and they'll send an email from you that to someone else requesting a transaction or something along those lines. And they now have access and can get into stuff that they shouldn't be having access to. And that's how a lot of the fraud gets started, right? The good news is there are lots of great tools out there to help facilitate that, facilitate preventing those kinds of attacks, not helping you with those attacks. But and it does an email filtering, both inbound and outbound. And we use one of those tools and provide that to a lot of our customers, where and people will say, well, hey, I've got Office 365. Doesn't Microsoft already do that? The typical base package that Microsoft provides doesn't really do a lot of spam filtering, does some, some of the obvious ones that are out there, but doesn't do a lot of the phishing attacks, doesn't filter against some of that. They have an upgraded package that does that, but it includes a whole bunch of other things, and the cost is substantially different than oftentimes looking at a third-party tool. So there are one of the ways we do that is looking at a third-party tool that helps filter those emails, looks for those phishing attacks, uses artificial intelligence, AI, to detect that kinds of things. But even more on a simpler thread, one of the very first things that every organization should do, particularly as it relates to Office 365, Google Mail, any of those types of products, is implement what they call multi-factor authentication, MFA, right? Or you'll see 2FA, right? Second factor, two-factor authentication. And what that is if you were to go to a website, let's say outlook.office.com, put in your username and your password, you're going to get a text message on your mobile device, or there's an authenticator app that allows you to put in some digits or whatever, or approve you. There's different ways that those different authenticator apps work. And that provides a second level of authentication that a bad actor would have to have access to. So let's say your password gets compromised because you go to one of those websites. The bad actor tries to log in. Well, you're going to get an MFA request. A little text message says, hey, are you trying to log in here? Here's the code. Okay, well, wait, you didn't request that. So at that point that your account's been compromised somewhere. So MFA is multi-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is one of the first steps that I think every organization should take a look at. And as I mentioned briefly, another tool is looking at an email filtering service or email security service that literally goes through and will scan every single email that comes in or out of your organization. One, make sure it came from the sources that it's supposed to. Make sure that the links in it are actually valid links. The tool we use for our customers actually rewrites the links to that if you were to click on them, it actually checks and validates so that actually is an appropriate link for the email and to go to where it's actually supposed to. And it would stop you from going to a nefarious website or a website that is known for hacking or malware attacks. So, and it catches a lot of those emails. You reduce your amount of your email traffic, which is nice. You don't get a lot of the phishing attacks, and you remove that biggest element that's a weakness in a lot of organizations, and that's the people factor and that social engineering. It kind of puts another layer before that. And so, that's just one of the things that we recommend companies do. Because again, as I remember if I mentioned, security is like an onion. You peel back all these different layers and you put as many layers that you can to be sensible. Remember, we've talked about that in the past, that the idea that security needs to be sensible security. And these are different practices that organizations can put in place that provide a level of security without making it too cumbersome, and therefore your team members and staff don't end up using that particular security or just get frustrated. So as we talked about in email, definitely look at multi-factor authentication for all of your email accounts. I would even use multi-factor authentication for pretty much almost any website that provides it. We use it for a lot of our access tools that we use for everything from banking account, credit cards, and any of that information. And then also look at a third-party email service for filtering service and for email security. So if you're interested in any of those or you have additional questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, my number is 918-770-7400. I think we even have it scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. Check out our website, leave a comment, and I'd love to help you any way we can. Thanks again for watching, and tomorrow we'll see you again.